Okay, we're back. Back bringing knowledge. I have a guest today. We'll see what our conversations will be about. And what do you call yourself, sir?
Allow me to introduce myself to the general public and the YouTubers. I am Professor XYZ123.
Okay.
That's what I'm commonly known as. Today's discussion, some with a weak mind may find brutal. They may find it hurtful. They may find it disrespectful. But there is no trial without error. And some people out there don't know they're wrong. But when you got individuals
Okay, we see the young professor has a lot to say. Just make sure we recognize our psychological war. That's what we're here to reveal. So, what questions do you have, Professor? Professor X?
XYZ123. I really don't have a question. I would just like to address certain individuals out here in the world.
All right, we're back. So, what's on your mind, Professor?
I would like to know, why does a person, or should I say a female of that nature, that is opposite of a woman, but is the four-letter word, why do they hide each other's faults and wrongdoing?
Uh, Discovery says in the makeup of those who call themselves black, there was a thing called, which you well know, called slavery. This enslavement truly denied us the knowledge of self. So our female has been compromised in most cases because we've lost the ways of protecting her through the murder and many other things that happen to our population. So what you're dealing with today, in most cases, with those who call themselves black, and the female being the highest form of our race, if you want to call it that, she has been unconsciously used as a catalyst
Correct.
to bring forth hellish conditions. So that kind of sums up that. We can go into details, but she's definitely been. See, she doesn't. We say she's our woman, but most cases she's the government's woman.
Always been the government's woman.
So that is why there are few, like in anything else, that are the good and the pure ones, but they haven't been traumatized by the general natures of the males who have been long destroyed and didn't have any guidance to become true men. Just like we just had Father's Day. And I
Correct.
was saying, okay, Father's Day, but don't be saying Happy Father's Day, doggone. Because basically, since we have been fathers, we have been suppressed, murdered, lynched, in jail. Actually, our women paying our bail, right? We have always been in this some type of hell, okay? But you know we're under the God spell, right?
Correct.
So we're not able to recognize these things, and we take great offense because most of us we have a great desire to be right and correct, you know. So when it comes to her, that's a many conversations to break down the state that she's in. Because the greatest curse is the mother, what? Okay then. Hands her offspring unconsciously over to the government or the slave master or the controller. Okay, so
The
that's the
majority
answer
of
to
the
that
things
question.
she does is unconscious because everything's off impulse.
Well, there's a lot to impulse, and there's a lot of things that create impulses. So that spell has many levels and layers to it, and all we can do is try to protect our future young ladies, and hopefully they can be much better than the past.
But if there is no blueprint, if there is no instruction manual, something has to be done as far as creating some type of infrastructure or instruction manual to assist good productivity.
There is such a thing. However, our present day religions will not allow us
Right,
to gain the true nature of self. So we exist in great states of fear.
right. And fear is what?
Fear is something, well, it's many things they call it, but it's basically called accepting things that are not real. Um, Fear of things that are not real. It's the enemy of love. Is the most important thing about it because love is the unified force,
Correct.
which allows us to become one and create the nirvana that we should have here and now. So fear normally comes with chaos, which will separate and continue to separate on many levels and bring other states of mind in a dark mind, dark natures of ignorance. It's like the 7D minds that we talk about: fear, grief, shame, guilt, lies, illusion, and selfishness. They all seem to work together.
They all seem to work together and they all have titles, and that's one way to look at fear. But fear can be also used as a tool. A tool can accomplish a mission, support an agenda, or create a certain reality. Just depends on the beholder of the tool and how that beholder chooses to give the tool to those to execute the tool. So there is no fear but fear itself. And fear itself is nothing. But a lot of people can't look past that, or should I say a lot of individuals, because everybody's an individual these days and time, cannot look past the fact of fear.
Well, see, there's always a double-edged sword on everything. The paradox. There is no fear, yet there is fear because we create it, and it comes from our creation of the image that we give to it. So we create our reality, whether we know it or not. So fear is created, and is basically created by the religions that relinquish the true mind and control the mind.
So basically, what you just told me, which is something I already know, but this is my analogy. I create my own fear, I create my own struggles, I create my own life out of my mindset and how I grew my mindset. Or what my mindset is fed, excuse me. In a nutshell, that's basically what you said.
Once again, they are always a double angle, because it's all relative. And our mind still grows from experience. And in its formative stages, it will create situations of fear that will sit in our minds because we are still, as we think, only 10% of our mind. There's 90% of our consciousness called the subconscious that can be infused, programmed, railroaded. It's a train of thought that if we do not have in control, others will have in control. We are still born in a situation where those before us, we are at their mercy in our vulnerable younger ages to develop.
Correct. So we can go back in history and we can view every learned and taught concept from your elders to the present to now and realize that we as black people, I don't like to call myself black at all, but we as people of color, our ancestors before us have embraced a lot of things that are not in fact true, and it becomes our mental reality because we feed it the belief and it manifests in our life and it manifests in this 3D dimension.
Well, it's a lot you just said there. These things are not coincidence. This
I would
is a
agree.
plan. The plan, just as the earth is a plan, network of ignorance that has denied the Negro, as you call it, nigga, whatever you want to say, denigration. We have been denied this knowledge of self. This is why our consciousness is slung on a pole, unknowing who we are or what we are, or actually what we in. We are basically collectively in a coma at this time.
I would not argue that, but everybody is subjected to their own type of coma. It's surface levels to the coma.
Everything is what you would call micro and macro. So even the language itself, as we try to speak it, is put in a babbling situation to confuse the one mind. So let's not take the language too seriously. There's always more to add to what we're saying, or
Correct.
something to take away. You are farly advanced, obviously more than most, but we're all still learning. And that comes with, once we can voltronically come together, we will have more answers for one another and be more complete.
Which makes a lot of sense. But my topic of discussion really today was based on the way our generation or our lineage or our race, where we're going. And there's no doubt that we're multiplying rapidly, maybe rapidly than we ever multiplied. But if you have a bunch of ignorance multiplying, it's not going to get anybody anywhere. You're just going to be multiplying a lot of pawns because nobody has knowledge of self.
Well,
Now, if nobody chooses to embrace,
there's
now,
a lot you said that I have to respond to before we can go further. It's a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot. Ignorance comes on many levels. It must run its own course like a virus. Until we know, for example, the laws of nature, there will be no way for us to follow our guidance of nature in order to combat this artificial intelligence that we have.
right?
Okay? So, 1 second. All right, so we're back. And the young professor here still has more to say that we're trying to shed some light on.
More to say. The more to say that I would have to say is us as black people, brown people, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, because to address the blackness, black is basically a color of a crayon, you would say. All right. The beauty of black is everything comes out of it, but when it's pure, it's white. So that's why some people who may be pale call themselves white.
Right.
All right, a purified color of all colors. However, we must recognize that we are more than black by recognizing that we are indigenous to the land. So we're more so indigenous Americans. You can see the African American
Right.
because they come over here. They've been shipped over here or they desire to come over here.
Right.
But you have the indigenous American that calls themselves black. Okay. And all these things we have accepted because generally our leaders only go back to the 17th century and they qualify to lead us.
Right.
So that's why we are addressing black people because there's no substance there. So I would say we're indigenous Americans.
Okay. Indigenous Americans, which I am. I'm not illiterate to that term, but the majority of the, or should I say, the masses of the individuals out there would consider themselves African American, black,
True.
so on and so forth. So that's why I was addressing it in such a way because that's why I'm addressing it too. Because a lot of those individuals are not, or people, should I say, have no familiarity with the term that we just used. So we lost a lot of ourself and we continuously lose ourself. We lose our culture, lost our culture. We lost our families. We lost our common sense. And we've lost our neutral understanding for one another. But yet and still we reside in the same community next door to each other.
This would be the God spell. Governmental Ordinance Department spell. This would be the Willie Lynch spell. That's why the book is out, folks.
And for those of you that
The
think
book is
that,
out, okay, for us to get more understanding of who we are, for us to get the knowledge coming from our own perspective. Someone like us bringing this knowledge of who we are.
for those of you that think that this doesn't really exist or that we just blowing smoke up your ass, let's look at it in another form. Let's look at it and say, all right, somebody built a traffic light and they build a traffic light. What does the traffic light do? It controls traffic. It's allegedly a safety device, so to speak, in so many words. It's not classified as such, but it's a traffic light. So the person who made that traffic light and the people who enforced that traffic light did that to create order and establish order. So that was that way because that was somebody's idea. So do you think everything around you just happened to happen the way it happened and it's not anyone's idea or a mass of individuals' ideas?
Well, I would say
I
that
just gave them something to think about and ponder about.
I would say that most are not considering these things because generally we have to go to a place of where people are comfortable, and we have become too comfortable to recognize the state of emergency that we have long been in. So the thoughts that you may have, for example, like a mother, she has to make sure the child is being taken care of. She has no time to have such vast thoughts beyond that. So a lot of things are set up and it has to run its own course for us to wake from this virus, this fear, this pie in the sky or Santa Claus.
Easter Bunny.
Yes, these kind of things that we follow. And most of our parents follow because they got from their parents. And they got from their parents. And their parents from that, we already know we're on the plantation, which has changed from the feet to the brains. So it's a lot of things to try to interject these things because most of us do not want to deal with what is uninviting to them, let alone giving them responsibility that we don't want to have.
That sounds like it's fear in itself to me.
So we are, yes, we're programmed very well. I think the spell is done very thoroughly. And we are so unthorough as a collective of people. The spell is done thoroughly. You know, how it's done must be respected, even though we don't know how to respect ourselves and each other, or from our lack of awareness of what it means. You know what it is when you're not living in the right home that you like. And what does that have to do with anything we talking about? So people are on that hamster wheel, you know, they got to pay that bill. Okay, and they talk about the country made off of what this reparations or something. I'm not even going to get into that today. But yes, we are in a situation to first be able to have a foundation so we can sit back and think about our situation. Generally, that's how that's the conditions that we're in that we must deal with in order to try to make the change, Professor.
I want to move this topic of discussion to a word called perfect. And I'm using it in the reference as perfect in design. So something is perfect in design that you might fathom or that you might adore or that is pleasing to the eye to you, that you just have to purchase it or you have to possess it. I want to use, for an example, a brand new car, let's say. Brand new car is perfect in design. When you're at the car lot, you're looking at the car. Like if it's in the showroom, you're looking at the showroom. And you're looking at the car. You're looking at every design about it. You're looking at how it makes you feel, how it smells, the whole experience in it. And if you walk to the other side and you see that somebody kicked a dent in it, you would realize, hey, I don't want this car because it's not perfect in design. Now, how many people out there embrace their religions or religion and they find inconsistencies in the religion where it's that same dent in the car and the showroom floor? But you will abort the whole idea of purchasing this car with the dent in it, but you don't abort or question your religion. And that religion can have several dents in it, where that car had one. And the dents are the inconsistencies, something that doesn't make sense to you logically. But you've been told all your life, don't you question your Lord.
Yes. Once again, we're dealing with fear.
Fear.
And fear, each person's fear takes each person's own courage to overcome these things. So, right now, as black males, as they call us, black male men existing in a country that we are prisoners of in most cases. But it's a nice sell, some think. Some appreciate the type of situation that they're in because they never had more. Um, all we can do is try to gain more and consistently try to bring awareness to others. Um, I'm not going to carry on much longer with this particular recording because there are more things that we have to do and I don't want to take too much time. I don't want my viewers to have to sit down for a long time whenever they stop to see me. So I generally do it for a certain amount of time and our time is running out. So our professor will visit us again and we will have more things to discuss and more things to shed light on. Peace. Have a good weekend.
Peace.